food rehydrates faster, stores longer, is nutritionally superior to, and tastes better than any other long-term storage food available. Now, let me out of here.
If you could get us some more, perhaps we could negotiate.
Yeah, perhaps I'll just confiscate your keys, Klaus, and let myself out the front door.
But wait!
I'm busy. Get your own supply of delicious long-term storable food by dialing 866-404-3663 or visit freezedryguy.com.
And welcome again to the story behind the story, everybody. I'm your Tuesday, Wednesday host, Alex Studer, coming to you from the back of a rusted-out ice cream truck somewhere under a bridge in the beautiful city of San Francisco. My sidekick, Kitty Cat, is no longer with us, folks. She's moved on to kitty heaven. So rest in peace, Kitty Cat, meow meow. We all miss you. You did some great research, and she was pretty vocal with me on the radio up until her last days. Today is Wednesday, June 12th, 2013, and oh gosh, folks, we got a show for you today, and we're going to continue our discussion from yesterday about the NSA, no such agency. The very same website you can get to by typing in Illuminati backwards. Etanimuli.com takes you straight to the NSA website. Just incredible things going on. Just gut-wrenching, just disgusting. So we have a bundle to talk about today. Also today, folks, if all goes well, in the second hour, we're going to have a special guest calling in, a friend of mine who is a precious metals trader and knows a thing or two about metals and other things. And so hopefully he will be able to call in for the second hour, and we'll be able to have some more financially related discussions then. But as always, the phone lines are going to be open. Anybody who wants to call in and comment at any point during today's show is welcome to do so. Those phone lines are 208-935-0094, also toll-free 888-747-1968. You're listening to the Micro Effect Radio, folks. This is listener-supported. This is not Clear Channel, so we need your donations. Please donate generously, and if at all possible, get your hands on the archives. Subscribe to those for $20 a month, and you won't have to worry about racing down the freeway trying to get to a show because you missed it. Okay, so we have, again, a ton of stuff to talk to you about today. Yesterday, we discussed his first interview, this Edward Snowden guy. And I will repeat, his name was Edward Snowden. His name was Edward Snowden. His name was Edward Snowden. And for those who understand the context of that sort of inside joke, you'll understand the meaning of how serious this is, because this is a guy who's pretty much knowingly martyred himself for the cause of patriotism, the cause of unveiling the dark secrets that JFK was so intent on exposing and was so vocal about doing right days before his assassination in 1963. This agency is directed by a U.S. Army general who today showed up in full uniform in front of the Senate Appropriations Hearing Committee, and they had a hearing, and it just wrapped up a few minutes ago. And in fact, right now they are most likely still in closed session following that hearing. The Senate Appropriations Committee was headed by Senator Mikulski, this Edomite woman senator who, I swear out of the corner of my eye, I saw her stick out her tongue 50 feet and zap a dragonfly that was floating around in the room and snatch it out of the air. Just absolute lizard-faced, Satanist to the core. All of these people sitting on this committee. You got the Republican from Alabama. They were all just having a love fest, folks. I tuned into the last part of it live on C-SPAN. You can do that. There's a web feed. A lot of people were watching this. As the director of the NSA, U.S. Army General Keith Alexander, was quote-unquote drilled by the Senate. No, he was not drilled. He was coddled and complimented and flattered and fluffed. Okay, this was a disgusting display of obvious collusion between the Congress and this very, very secretive, highly invasive domestic espionage private corporation. This agency calling itself National Security Agency. At issue were the obvious and now testified to, thanks to folks like Edward Snowden and some other folks. He's not the very first to make these revelations. He's the most recent, and he has some more current relevant things to say about it. But this is not the first time we've heard about this sort of thing. But at issue is the fact that the NSA is blanketly, across the board, every piece of information, including this broadcast, your telephone calls this morning to your children's doctors or to your school superintendent, whatever you maybe have done in your life that put you in touch with any electronic gadget, the street cameras that monitor you as you enter and leave your homes and your neighborhoods, the highway cameras that monitor traffic, the cameras that read license plates that are mounted on the tops of patrol cars and your police force now roaming the neighborhood and reading everyone's plates, the cameras at the bridge toll. I hear it, San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge just went all electronic. There are no more toll takers at the bridge entrance now when you cross coming down from Marin into San Francisco. The signs all say just drive through. A lot of people still confused. There's traffic accidents. There's all kinds of craziness. But no, they electronically read your license plate with these, high-tech video analyzing software that the NSA is deeply involved in. Their facial recognition software employed by most major hotels. Walking in front of any of these major hotels definitely puts you on the radar. Think Minority Report. And then there's that show on television. I don't watch this stuff, but you folks know what I'm talking about. And then it just befuddles me because here in San Francisco we are constant home to this yearly conference known as RSA, and who participates? You betcha. NSA has a booth right smack dab in the middle of it. Recruiting. Fresh out of college, you can't get a job? Come work for us. Kill Muslims. Spy on Americans. Yeah. So, watching this Senate hearing committee today, and I hope the transcripts will be printed soon, because there's just some zingers in there, folks. Speaking of zingers, we're gonna get to a few quotes from Ed Snowden. But yeah, it's just a disgusting display that occurred today with this Senator Mikulski and this other guy, the senator from Alabama, the Republican, just pausing and say, I just really want to thank all the members of the panel that showed up here today. We've been working together for so long, and we just really appreciate what you're doing for America. Folks, we wouldn't be having this meeting if we weren't proud. If we were proud of what they were doing for America, first of all, okay? The whole reason we're having this meeting at all is because we're not proud. Somebody's very not proud and calling a spade, saying, hey, this is illegal. And for that, we're going to refer back to some legislative acts that were passed. One in 1968, an anti-wiretapping bill act, and then just the Fourth Amendment, folks. The Fourth Amendment. And I guess right now is a good time. I'm going to read just that pertinent part to you in a comment that I think deserves mention. This is, again, a comment from a site that I read. It's got a great forum for commentary. And I mentioned it yesterday. I'm going to, try not to pump them too much. But, again, zerohedge.com. You can go and read up, the latest on the Ed Snowden story. You can get up to speed on some other financial issues as reported from some very bright minds, in my opinion. But also, in the real gem of this site is all in its commentary, because it has a real open forum and some really brilliant minds reading and commenting. So the discussion, the discourse that occurs when these articles release, it's just unparalleled, in my opinion. Again, I don't get anything. I'm not promoting them. For all I know, at the bottom of the line, they may be controlled opposition yet again. I'm not saying that, but keep an open mind when you go to any new website, folks, and don't try not to read into any agenda. Just try to get to the facts. The Fourth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States, the right of the people, and I'm quoting now, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized, unquote. And this guy puts it real well. The FBI, IRS, DOJ, DHS, NSA, CIA, the Supreme Court, and the White House are no longer a legitimate governing body, having broken their governing contract with the people, the Constitution, on so many occasions. The federal government has voided its right to govern by breach of contract. The fact that every state government has allowed this to continue on for so long a time renders their governing contract just as void and illegitimate as the federal government's. It's way past time to re-secure our God-given inalienable rights. Quote, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. And folks, that's what this is about. This is just scratching the surface, what we're going through right now. If you think that it's bad learning about, oh, the NSA is monitoring everything I'm doing and recording all my phone calls, wait till you get a load of what else they're up to, folks. I've said it before, and I talked about it a little yesterday, that, there's a BMW ad that goes, the greatest expression of power is control. Okay? Apply that to these SOBs, and wait till you get a load of what they've got up their sleeves with regard to control. Okay? What we're talking about today with regard to Snowden and all these other revelations is merely discovery. As far as, invasion of privacy, sure. But gathering the information is one thing. What they do with it is entirely another thing. And they are lying their bleepity-bleeps off when they say they are only going through the data on established warrants and justifiable cause, and they have a reason to suspect, hogwash. That's not the issue. And that's, again, what was one of the things that got swept under the rug in this Senate Appropriations Committee hearing this today, was that at issue is not what you're doing with the data. Certainly that can be discussed after the fact, but right now we're really focused on where the heck do you come off finding it legal to gather that data in the first place. And quickly sidestepped the whole issue once it came up. And again, I can't make any direct quotes. I didn't see a lot of this. I'm hoping the transcripts surface so that we can see that for ourselves. Speaking of zingers, I'll maybe get to some of the zingers that came out from Ed Snowden. But really, the next thing I want to bring to your attention is the newest and latest and greatest from Edward Snowden. And here's his an article, second interview to the Hong Kong paper, quote, "I'm not here to hide from justice, I'm here to reveal criminality," unquote. Following the dramatic self-revelatory interview and the profiling of Edward Snowden by The Guardian's Glenn Greenwald, the media world and everyone else has been abuzz about what other revelations the NSA whistleblower might bring to light. Moments ago, the South China Morning Post releases the much-anticipated second interview with the 29-year-old. While hardly earth-shattering, it does provide some additional insight in the mind of the administration's current persona non grata. And this is from the South China Morning Post. Snowden said last night that he had no doubts about his choice of Hong Kong. Quote, "People who think I made a mistake in picking Hong Kong as a location misunderstand my intentions. I'm not here to hide from justice. I'm here to reveal criminality," unquote. Snowden said in an exclusive interview with the South China Morning Post. Quote, "I've had many opportunities to flee Hong Kong, but I'd rather stay and fight the United States government in the courts because I have faith in Hong Kong's rule of law," unquote, he added. Snowden said he's committed no crimes in Hong Kong and has, quote, "been given no reason to doubt their legal system," unquote. Quote, "My intention is to ask the courts and people of Hong Kong to decide my fate," unquote, he said. Beijing will seek to interfere in a likely extradition case. The Hong Kong government has so far refused to comment on Snowden's case, while many Hong Kong lawmakers, legal experts, activists, and members of the public have called on cities' courts to protect Snowden's rights. Others, such as Beijing loyalist lawmaker and former security chief Regina Ips Lau Suk Yi, said he should leave. Hong Kong Human Rights Monitor Director Lau Yuk Kai said he was surprised by Snowden's choice, adding, quote, "Snowden's positive view of Hong Kong no longer matches the reality," unquote. Law said a possible reason for his choice could be Hong Kong's role as the region's news hub. Quote, Hong Kong remains a hub of the global media, not least because of its proximity to the economic boom in southern China and the ease of access to many other Asian cities. The publicity could complicate efforts by the United States to charge Snowden and have him deported, unquote, he said. Snowden said yesterday that he felt safe in the city. Quote, as long as I am assured a free and fair trial and asked to appear, that seems reasonable, unquote, he said. He said he plans to stay in Hong Kong plans to stay in Hong Kong until he is asked to leave. The United States has not yet filed an application for extradition. Snowden could choose to fight any extradition attempt in court. Another option open to him is to seek refugee status from the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in Hong Kong. Local activists plan to take to the streets on Saturday in support of Snowden. Groups including the Civil Human Rights Front and international human rights groups will march from Chater Gardens in the Central to the U.S. Consulate on Garden Road starting at 3 p.m. The march is being organized by In Media, a website supporting freelance journalists. We call on Hong Kong to respect international legal standards and procedures relating to the protection of Snowden. We condemn the U.S. government for violating our rights and privacy, and we call on the U.S. not to prosecute Snowden, the group said in a statement. More news about Snowden relating to his girlfriend. Apparently they went and raided her place and his family's place. And sorry, folks, taking a sip of coffee here. Senator Feinstein's just marching up and down, saying, he's a traitor. He's a traitor. Yesterday, Army General met with Senate Intelligence Committee on Tuesday with Senator Dianne Feinstein, chairing the committee, and she said the committee had asked Alexander to declassify some information pertaining to the NSA surveillance programs so that Congress could better explain their purpose to the public. I think they're really helpful, she said, as quoted by CBS News, and that's the problem. It's all classified. If we can get that declassified, then we can speak much more clearly. All right, meanwhile, she's calling Snowden a traitor. Who's the traitor, Feinstein? You red coat, satanic synagogue of Satan witch. Oh, goodness. It's real. It turns my stomach, folks, to know that she was our mayor here in San Francisco, and I brushed shoulders with her a couple times growing up. And, boy, had I known then the kind of lady that she would have turned out to be, it was certainly no lady, I probably would have thrown my food in her face, the youngster that I was. Just disgusting to me to see what's going on right now with this satanically controlled Congress and even more satanically controlled intelligence agencies like the NSA. And folks, we talked yesterday about their satanic influences from one general, NSA General Michael A. Aquino, who's also high priest of this Temple of Set, and how he's just been a child-raping, murdering, satanic loser since day one. Hiding out underground Los Alamos with his other buddies, Bert Stubblebind and Colonel John B. Alexander. Alexander, any relation to U.S. Army General Keith Alexander? I don't know. They certainly behave a lot alike. Let's put it that way. Just one last thing. We'll go to break and come back and talk about some more stuff in the second segment on this. But, there's a poll out, and I don't know if I mentioned yesterday, but RT, they're so funny. RT really, bites on this stuff, and at the same time they have guys on like AJ. It really serves to, benefit the Russian agenda if, Americans are divided and rioting in the fits of civil unrest. So certainly they want to have guys like AJ and this other guy, Max Kaiser. Well, anyway, they called the statistics on this new poll that apparently people were measured on their opinion of, oh, what are you for or against, being spied on by the NSA? And they came out with 56% are for and 46% are against. And folks, just FYI, that doesn't add up to 100. It adds up to 102. So you gotta wonder, yeah, of course, they're just making this up as they go along. They're massaging any stated statistics to sound like the way they want it to go. Okay, that's the way it is. It's cart before the horse, wag the dog. This is how public opinion is massaged, folks. But there's a new poll where now most Americans disapprove of government spying. And I'm just going to read this opening paragraph here. 2 days ago, when Pew Research came out with a poll showing that a majority, 56% of Americans, replied affirmatively to the question if the National Security Agency's NSA program tracking the telephone records of millions of Americans is an acceptable way for the government to investigate terrorism. We were disappointed, if not shocked. However, what is surprising is that moments ago, Gallup has released its own poll conducted on June 10th and 11th. Quote, with a random sample of 1,008 adults aged 18 and older living in all 50 U.S. states and the District of Columbia, unquote, and which finds precisely the opposite. Quote, more Americans disapprove, 53%, than approve, 37%, of the federal government agency program that, as a part of its efforts to investigate terrorism, obtained records from the U.S. telephone and internet companies to compile telephone call logs and internet communications, unquote. The reactions to these types of government programs have remained constant over the past 7 years, although Republicans and Democrats have essentially flipped their attitudes over that time period, reflecting the change from Republican President George W. Bush to Democratic President Barack Obama. Well, I say Bush never left. He just put on a different hat and claimed to come from Kenya, which, now we know all that is false. The Kenya thing, the Hawaii thing, it's all faked. You got this gal, Orly Tate's, real big on that, and she's doing some legitimate homework on it. Granted, she doesn't have the most spotless record of her own, with her Edomite Zionist ties and such, but on this issue, she so far is holding up to scrutiny with her legal battle to expose the falsehood of the birth origin of this guy that we're calling president, who is just a long-legged Mac Daddy, MK Manchurian, gay participant in this very satanic Synagogue of Satan agenda. Many have called him our first Jewish president. And by no mistake, I submit he's our second. George Bush W. was very likely our first. But we're falling and slipping fast down this slope, folks. And as I mentioned before, as we continue to increase our awareness, so then does the agenda against us gain momentum. And I think it's with these revelations here, with this guy Snowden coming forth, you can rest assured that pretty soon we're going to see even more false flag events and other stuff. So I think we're going to break soon. I can't really tell. I can't hear anything in my headphones. But I'll just keep talking. The further we go down this path, folks, the more you can assure yourselves that false flag events like Sandy hoax, the Boston quote unquote bombing, will continue to occur. The more that we have whistleblowers coming forth and raising attention to these nefarious groups, the more they will plug forward their agendas to, again, wag the dog. I don't know if anybody's in the studio. Can anybody in the studio hear me? I'm typing. Are we going to break? I'm not exactly sure. We should have been to a commercial break by now. I don't really know what's going on. Honestly, I can't even tell if I'm on the air or not. I really hope this is getting through. Again, you're listening to the Micro Effect. This is listener-supported radio. They need your donations. Please donate to the Micro Effect. Again, our phone lines are open. Those numbers are 208-935-0094 and toll-free 888-747-1968. I'm not getting any response from anyone at the Micro Effect. Is anybody there? Can you folks hear me? I really don't know what the status is here. I guess I will just keep going as if we're not going to take a break. So there's some other things I want to talk to you folks about today. And we'll review for a minute, because I think these are just, as I said, something about zingers. Here we are. And this comes from Michael Snyder from the Economic Collapse blog. Would you be willing to give up what Edward Snowden has given up? He's given up his high-paying job, his home, his girlfriend, his family, his future, and his freedom, just to expose the monolithic spy machinery that the U.S. government has been secretly building to the world. He says that he does not want to live in a world where everything he says and does is recorded. Thanks to Snowden, we now know that the U.S. government has been spying on us to a degree that most people would have never even dared to imagine. Up until now, the general public has known very little about the U.S. government's spy grid that knows almost everything about us, but making this information public is going to cost Edward Snowden everything. Essentially, his previous life is now totally over. If the U.S. government gets their hands on him, he'll be very fortunate if he only has to spend the next several decades rotting in some horrible prison somewhere. There's a reason why government whistleblowers are so rare. And most Americans are so apathetic that they wouldn't even give up watching their favorite television show for a single evening to do something good for society. Most Americans never even try to make a difference because they do not believe that it will benefit them personally. Meanwhile, our society continues to fall apart around us. Hopefully, the great sacrifice that Edward Snowden has made will not be in vain. Hopefully, people will carefully consider what he has tried to share with the world. The following are 27 quotes from Edward Snowden about U.S. government spying that should send a chill up your spine. Number 1. The majority of people in developed countries spend at least some time interacting with the internet, and governments are abusing that necessity in secret to extend their powers beyond what is necessary and appropriate. Number 2. I believe that at this point in history, the greatest danger to our freedom and way of life comes from the reasonable fear of omniscient state powers kept in check by nothing more than policy documents. Number 3. The government has granted itself power it is not entitled to. There is no public oversight. The result is people like myself have the latitude to go further than they are allowed to. Number 4. I can't in good conscience allow the U.S. government to destroy privacy, internet freedom, and basic liberties for people around the world with this massive surveillance machine they're secretly building. And folks, I've talked a little bit about this massive machine they're building, starting with the first in a series of many at a site in Utah known as Camp Williams that is set to have a ribbon-cutting ceremony in September. Scary business, folks. Number 5. The NSA has built an infrastructure that allows it to intercept almost everything. Number 6. With this capability, the vast majority of human communications are automatically ingested without targeting. If I wanted to see your emails or your wife's phones, all I have to do is use intercepts. I can get your emails, passwords, phone records, credit cards. Number 7. Any analyst at any time can target anyone. Any selector anywhere. I, sitting at my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone, from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president. Number 8. To do that, the NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default. It collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time simply because that's the easiest, most efficient, and most valuable way to achieve these ends. So while they may be intending to target someone associated with a foreign government or someone that they suspect of terrorism, they are collecting your communications to do so. I just heard something in my headphone, but I don't know what it was. Did we go to break? Did we go to commercial just now and I didn't know? I'm in the dark over here. I've been trying to communicate with the micro effect in the studio, and I've gotten no response. So I'm just going to keep reading. Number 9. I believe that when Senator Ron Wyden and Senator Mark Udall asked about the scale of this, they, the NSA, said it did not have the tools to provide an answer. We do have the tools, and I have maps showing where people have been scrutinized most. We collect more digital communications from America than we do from the Russians. Number 10. And these are zinger quotes from Ed Snowden out of his interview with The Guardian the other day, folks. Again, number 10. They are intent on making every conversation and every form of behavior in the world known to them. Number 11. Even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. It's getting to the point where you don't have to have done anything wrong. You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call. And then they can use this system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life. Number 12. Allowing the U.S. government to intimidate its people with threats of retaliation for revealing wrongdoing is contrary to the public interest. Number 13. Everyone everywhere now understands how bad things have gotten, and they're talking about it. They have the power to decide for themselves whether they are willing to sacrifice their privacy to the surveillance state. Number 14. I do not want to live in a world where everything I do and say is recorded. That is not something I am willing to support or live under. And to that, I'm going to raise my glass and take a sip of coffee in your honor there, Sir Edward Snowden, because if I could buy you pizza and beer right now, I would. This is just brilliant what you're doing, and I fully support it, and we need more of you in the world. Number 15. I don't want to live in a world where there's no privacy and therefore no room for intellectual exploration and creativity. Number 16. I have no intention of hiding who I am because I know I have done nothing wrong. Hear, hear. Number 17. I had been looking for leaders, but I realized that leadership is about being the first to act. Again, hear, hear. Number 18. There are more important things than money. If I were motivated by money, I could have sold these documents to any number of countries and gotten very rich. Now, I'm still looking forward to seeing what's in these documents, folks. This is just scratching the surface as far as what's going to be unveiled in these documents that supposedly he's already handed over. So there's a lot more to this story. And grant you, these Synagogue of Satan, Edomite-controlled media outlets are going to do their very best to disallow any circulation of the content of those documents in any way. And then they're going to say, I can tell you right away what they're going to do. They're going to start announcing that anybody found to be in possession of said documents or circulating them or reading them, or if you have them on your computer, you yourself are now guilty of treason, and they're going to come after you. They're going to bring the thought police and 1984 all over again, folks. You just wait. You know, they just did it with Sandy hoax. The guy got up there, he said, anyone listening to any other stories than the ones that we're telling you are guilty of challenging the authority of this investigation and are obstructing justice and will be prosecuted. You hear that? They said that, folks. I'm not kidding. Number 19. The great fear that I have regarding the outcome for America of these disclosures is that nothing will change. People won't be willing to take the risks necessary to stand up and fight to change things. And in the months ahead, in the years ahead, it's only going to get worse. The NSA will say that because of this crisis, the dangers that we face in the world, some new and unpredicted threat, we need more authority. We need more power. And there will be nothing the people can do at that point to oppose it. And it will be turnkey tyranny. Number 20. I will be satisfied if the Federation of Secret Law, Unequal Pardon, and irresistible executive powers that rule the world that I love are revealed even for an instant. Number 21. You can't come up against the world's most powerful intelligence agencies and not accept the risk. Number 22. I know the media likes to personalize political debates, and I know the government will demonize me. Number 23. We've got a CIA station just up the road, the consulate here in Hong Kong, and I'm sure they're going to be busy for the next week. And that's a concern I will live with for the rest of my life, however long that happens to be. Let's hope it's a long one. I certainly do. I hate to see any harm come to this guy. Again, he has done nothing wrong. He's exposed light on a bunch of cockroaches. And now they're scurrying for cover. And that's just, we need more of that. Number 24. I understand that I will be made to suffer for my actions and that the return of this information to the public marks my end. Number 25. There's no saving me. See, this is a guy who's knowingly martyring himself, okay? And that's why I say his name was Edward Snowden. His name was Edward Snowden. The only thing I fear, number 26, the only thing I fear is the harmful effects on my family, who I won't be able to help anymore. That's what keeps me up at night. And finally, number 27. I do not expect to see home again. The author of this article goes on. Would you make the same choice that Edward Snowden made? Most Americans would not. One CNN reporter says that he really admires Snowden because he's tried to get insiders to come forward with details about government spying for years, but none of them were ever willing to. And CNN reporter says, as a digital technology writer, I've had more than one former student colleague tell me about digital switchers they have serviced through which calls and data are diverted to government servers or the big data algorithms they've written to be used on our emails by intelligence agencies. I've always begged them to write about it or to let me do so while protecting their identities. They refused to come forward and believed my efforts to shield them would be futile. I don't want to lose my security clearance or my freedom, one told me. And if the U.S. government has anything to say about it, Snowden is most definitely going to pay for what he has done. And in fact, according to the Daily Beast, a directorate known as the Q Group is already hunting Snowden down. And from the Daily Beast, the people who began chasing Snowden work for the Associate Directorate for Security and Counterintelligence, according to former U.S. intelligence officers who spoke on condition of anonymity. The Directorate, sometimes known as the Q Group, and the letter Q, is continuing to track Snowden now that he's outed himself as the Guardian's source, according to the intelligence officers. If Snowden's not already under the protection of some foreign government, such as China, it will be a matter of time before U.S. government's agents get him. And how will they treat him once they find him? Well, one reporter overheard a group of U.S. intelligence officials talking about how Edward Snowden should be, quote-unquote, disappeared. The following is from a Daily Mail article that was posted on Monday. A group of intelligence officials were overheard yesterday discussing how the National Security Agency worker who leaked sensitive documents to a reporter last week should be disappeared. Foreign policy analyst and editor-at-large of The Atlantic, Steve Clemens, tweeted about the disturbing conversation after listening in to four men who were sitting near him as he waited for a flight at Washington's Dulles Airport. Quote, in Dulles UAL Lounge, listening to four U.S. intel officials saying loudly, leaker and reporter on hashtag NSA stuff should be disappeared, recorded a bit, unquote. He tweeted it 8:42 a.m. on Saturday. According to Clemens, the men had been attending an event hosted by the Intelligence and National Security Alliance. As an American, I'm deeply disturbed that the U.S. government is embarrassing itself in front of the rest of the world like this. The fact that we are collecting trillions of pieces of information on people all over the planet is a massive embarrassment. And the fact that our politicians are defending this practice now that has been exposed is, too, a massive embarrassment. If the U.S. government continues to act like a Big Brother police state, then the rest of the world will eventually conclude that's exactly what we are. At that point, we become the bad guy, and we lose all credibility with the rest of the planet. And again, Michael Snyder over at Economic Collapse Block, very, very well written. I concur wholeheartedly that, we as people need to defend our Fourth Amendment right to privacy, and understand just how serious this really is. I will now read to you a brief piece of text relating to the Wiretapping Protections Act, the 1968 wiretap. The wiretapping of all Americans' phone calls, text messages, faxes, internet communications, and etc. is illegal without a search warrant under the 1968 Wiretap Act. Any government agency who conducts such wiretapping without a valid court-ordered wiretap is guilty of committing a felony. And you can read this yourself, folks, at https://ssd.eff.org. Again, that's Electronic Frontier Foundation, right here in San Francisco. ssd.eff.org/wire/govt/wiretapping-protections. The Electronic Communications Privacy Act, ECPA, is a United States federal statute that prohibits a third party from intercepting or disclosing communications without authorization. The act, which was originally passed as an amendment to the Wiretap Act of 1968, applies to both government employees and private citizens. It protects communications in storage as well as in transit. The ECPA was amended by the Communications Assistance to Law Enforcement Act, the CALEA, in 1994, by the USA Patriot Act in 2001, and by the USA Patriot Act Reauthorization Acts in 2006. The Patriot Act, full name is USA Patriot Act, or Uniting and Strengthening America Act by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act of 2001. was enacted by the U.S. Congress on October 26, 2001, at the request of President George W. Bush in response to the terrorist attacks of September 11. Oh, those Muslims. It gives controversial new powers to the Justice Department in terms of domestic and international surveillance of American citizens and others within its jurisdiction. According to its sponsors, the act was needed to address a situation that had not existed before, the presence of terrorists within national borders, and the need to apprehend and prosecute them, hopefully before rather than after they acted. Think thought police, folks. Minority Report. Opponents of the act, including Electronic Frontier Foundation and the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, say that the act has undone previous checks on civil liberty abuses of the past and unnecessarily endangers privacy and discourages free speech. Among the act's provisions flowing out of the government's ability to legally tap telephone lines in certain cases is the ability to intercept internet messages through its Carnivore program. Theoretically, the government has the ability to intercept all messages that are relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation, a lower standard than the previous one in which a crime had to have been committed. The Act allows the guidelines to apply to all surveillance cases, not just those of suspected terrorists. Some opponents allege that the Act was on the drawing boards prior to September 11th. Many parties agree that the act was rushed through Congress with a minimum of study and discussion. In addition to, and folks, nobody even read it. No one in Congress reads anything before they vote on it. They're too long, even though they're required to read them aloud twice. In addition to the surveillance program, the act includes sections related to money laundering and immigration, and also contains a section that condemns discrimination against Muslims and Arab Americans. Gee. Again, folks, let's give the EFF a big boost in the arm, because they're going to be among the leading legal opponents to what's going on here in places like these Senate Appropriation Committee hearings, where what is promoted as a grilling of the head of the NSA turns out to just be a love fest. With just the last few minutes, I'm going to revert back in time. I'm going to turn the time machine back a year to April 20th of 2012, where an NSA whistleblower spoke live. The government is lying to you. Okay? A month prior, a proverbial eyebrow was raised when was noted the creation of the NSA's Utah Data Center, which is codenamed Stellar Wind. And William Binney's formidable statement that, quote, we are this far from a turnkey totalitarian state, unquote. And, well, Democracy Now! Has the former National Security Agency technical director whistleblower's first TV interview in which he discusses the NSA's massive power to spy on Americans and why the FBI raided his home. Since retiring from the NSA in 2001, he's warned that the NSA's data mining program has become so vast that it could create an Orwellian state. Today marks the first time Binney has spoken on national TV about NSA surveillance, starting with his pre-9/11 identification of the World Wide Web as a voluminous problem since the NSA was falling behind the rate of change. His success in creating a system codenamed Thin Thread for grabbing all the data and the critical lawful anonymization of that data, according to mandate at the time, which as soon as 9/11 occurred went out of the window, as all domestic and foreign communications was now stored, starting with AT&T's forking over their data. This direct violation of the constitutional rights of everybody in the country was why Binney decided he could not stay, leaving 1 month after 9/11. along with the violation of almost every Privacy and Intelligence Act as near bottomless databases store all forms of communication collected by the agency, the NSA, including private emails, cell phone calls, Google searches, and other personal data. There was a time when Americans still cared about matters such as personal privacy. Luckily, now they have iGadgets to keep them distracted as they hand over their last pieces of individuality to the czar of conformity. And this TV interview that's presented, you can go to Democracy Now! and look at it for yourself. It's broken into 4 parts. Part 1 is exclusive National Security Agency William Binney on growing state surveillance. There's 3 other parts, but I'll read those titles to you after we come back from these messages, folks. You're listening to the story behind the story. I'm your San Francisco host, Alex Studer. Hopefully, next hour we're going to be bringing to you a special guest. We'll talk about some other things. Again, our phone lines are open. We're taking your calls. Please don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages.
We interrupt this program for an urgent announcement. The power's gone and the lights are out. We now have an emergency situation. Time to light your emergency candle. Don't have any? Then it's time to order your supply of emergency grab-and-go candles from LisaKCandles.com. The emergency candles outperform even the most extreme conditions. They are soot and toxin-free and have a natural extended shelf life. The time is now, so don't delay. Have emergency candles from Lisa K Candles ready when you need them, so you remain in the light and out of the dark. Go to LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293. We now return you to your regular scheduled program already in progress.
Prisoner, rise and answer my question. Oh, crap.
Yeah, it's a little dark in here, ain't it, Clink? Now that you've busted the light?
Where are you?
Right in front of you.
Yes. Now, where have you hidden the wax figurine of the Kaiser?
I've got no bloody idea what you did with your Vax figurine, and I don't care.
You are the prisoner.
That's right, and as such, I expect some answers out of you. Now, where did you put my stash of freeze-dried food?
We, ate it.
You ate it?
It was quite good.
I'm sure it was. I'll have you know that was freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy. That food rehydrates faster, stores longer, is nutritionally superior to, and tastes better than any other long-term storage food available. Now, let me out of here.
If you could get us some more, perhaps we could negotiate.
Yeah, perhaps I'll just confiscate your keys, Klaus, and let myself out the front door.
But wait.
I'm busy. Get your own supply of delicious long-term storable food by dialing 866-404-3663 or visit freezedryguy.com.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
I believe it is clear our federal government is overgrown and overweight. Indeed, it is time our government should go on a diet.
There's millions of people in this country, but I don't think they really grasp what really could happen.
The New Deal and the Fair Deal were bold measures for their generation. But now this is a new generation. And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There wouldn't be any doubt. The rules of the game are changing.
You're listening to the Micro Effect Radio Network, the gem of the mountains. Learn more about the Micro Effect at themicroeffect.com.
The era of big government is over.
And we're back, folks. Welcome back to the story behind the story for the second hour on the 12th of June, 2013. I'm your host, Alex, and I am just talking to my buddy, Emmanuel Manny. He's a precious metals trader. He's going to be calling in a minute, and we're going to get physical. we're going to start talking physical metals and resources that you can get into, folks, and hedge against what we call, or what I'm calling, economageddon, the ultimate collapse of the banking system, devaluation of currency. It's all coming. But I was just reading to you folks the text from a Democracy Now! Interview from way back, and just wanted you to know the other parts of that. The first part, he's growing state surveillance, William Binney. Second part is detained in the U.S. Filmmaker Laura Poitras held, questioned 40 times at the U.S. airports. Third part, we don't live in a free country. Jacob Applebaum being targeted of widespread government surveillance. And the last part, again, is William Binney, National Security Agency whistleblower, talking, again, about the same stuff that I've been talking to you all the first hour. But we are going to change gears now, and like I said, we're going to get physical. And let's get into some precious metals, and hopefully, if we've done our work and we have our technical buttons in a row, we've got our friend on the line. And I'm going to toss the ball your way if you're there. Can you hear me now?
Hey, Alex.
Hey, Manny, can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, you're 5x5. Welcome, and thank you so much for calling in. This is the first time you and I have ever spoken in real human voices. To me, you're just this you're this mystery behind a computer screen as we trade emails and chat and discuss things. Thank you again so much for calling in. Now, I know that you work in the metals department. What can you tell us about yourself, please, for our listening audience?
I started basically the precious metal business from the bottom, just counting metals, 90%, really not trading much, and I worked my way up to also the trading and the numismatic part of the business. Always been an investor, especially in silver. And I guess, sooner or later that materialized into a profession, and that's what I'm doing now. And I started essentially a few weeks ago a blog to really give the pulse of the physical wholesale dealer point of view in a world of technical analysis and charts and a lot of politics and baloney also, especially when it comes to precious metals. And so here I am to answer your question, discuss the metal, whatever, if there's phone calls from the listener.
Yeah, and again, folks, if you have any questions for Manny or myself for the next hour, we're still here. We're live. The phone lines are open. Those numbers are 208-935-0094. Also toll-free 888-747-1968. And Manny, I guess the first question I would have is, what's the big deal? Why precious metals? Why not like Google stock or Zynga?
We live in a world of broken promises, of somebody else's liabilities, in a world where even the central banks, they don't trust each other anymore. And really the only thing that extinguish the debt at the moment the transaction is completed is gold and silver. Even if you go back to the Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution, the only legal tender should only be gold and silver as a protection from, an elite group of banksters floating the market with paper promises, IOUs basically, and destroying the purchasing powers of American families and destroying basically the economy of this country or the world economy. So precious metal was, to me, the only place to be in this particular time in history where we facing the winter of the economy, and there is a battle between paper assets and physical assets. And this eventually is going to revert one day, but for now we're still in the middle of this this dilemma of having, for example, a physical price and having a paper price. And, the people that control the market can manipulate the paper price with the leverage using leverage of 100 to 1 ounces of physical silver or gold.
Now, is that similar to the way that the derivatives market works? When you say 100 to 1, okay.
Even silver is the commodity with the highest level of leverage. It's also the second most used commodity with over 10,000 users, second only to oil. But basically what happened is that people can decide one day to float the market with paper contracts. Basically sign a paper that said, I sell you 100,000, 200,000 ounces of silver or more that they don't have was ever mined, and destroy the price of the future contract for silver or gold, and create this distortion in the market. Distortion that you see, for example, in April. That was the recent example, where we went from about $1,600 gold to about $1,340, $1,350, which was 30% down from the high of 1920 in 2011. And for silver, we went from $28 to $21, and that was another 20 or 25% down, and which is also 50% from the $49 top of the silver market in April 2011. This is what's happening right now, where we have what I called a few months ago a detachment between the physical price and the paper price. And the result of this coordinated action, because the one in April was a coordinated action where Goldman Sachs came out lowering the target for the price of gold and silver, and then the hedge funds started to cut in their positions in the metals. They all did it as a coordinated action because gold is basically what I call the thermometer that tells you the state of the economy, the central banks, and what the planners are doing around the world. And right now, the economy should have 103 fever. And so they cannot show a price of gold being too high because that is against their interest and purposes. And so every time gold and silver approaching or passing the 200-day moving average, they try to manipulate the market and bring the price down again. And also the news all over, if you follow CNBC or Bloomberg and MarketWatch, every time the gold and silver going up, nobody say anything, and every time the gold and silver goes down, they start talking, is the bubble over? It's the end of the precious metal. It's all about politics, where the oligarchs that basically control the market and financial world, they decide to suppress the price of precious metals.
It does seem to me that there's a lot of shenanigans going on with regard to price fixing and PR announcements and propaganda to manipulate metal prices to literally turn people off and get them disinterested in metals so that their prices can be held artificially low, and these oligarchs, as you say, end up doing just massive hoarding. Are you seeing the same kind of thing?
Absolutely. These people is basically the same people that owns the metal, and that every time that there is a different price, take advantage, and basically they shake the weak players. And when silver was going up too fast, and we know something was going to happen, they started to kind of push the articles and making it look like, look, silver is the new thing. And then when people get in and it's too late, they bash the price down, and with this coordinated action in the paper market, they want to create the perception of a bubble exploding, of the metal collapsing. And it is all about perception. because if you look at what the economy is doing, it's all about perception. As long as the stock market is at all-time high, S&P is at all-time high, the real estate is in a artificial recovery, and the unemployment is 7.5 according to the numbers, and inflation is 2%. As long as we have this perception, they can keep the house of cards together, and they can give the mirage that everything is fine, you guys don't worry, and keep going on with your life and spend. Everything is going to be fine at the end. But as I said, it's all about perception. The moment the perception is going to change, the moment the spotlight is going to turn to the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is, the financial state of the United States, then it's going to be what I call the game changer, where all of a sudden we'll have to realize that pretty much every country around the world is insolvent. And that's going to be the moment this thing reverses and metals are going to go up to the moon.
Well, here's the thing. You hit the nail on the head when you brought up the issue of physical versus paper. I think this is just a huge one right here, and people don't really understand the difference between physical gold, for example, and paper gold. And one would say, okay, well, paper gold, gee, that's an oxymoron, isn't it? But yeah. It is an oxymoron, because if you're not holding it in your hand, that's not gold. If it does not weigh the atomic weight of gold and measure, under mass spectrometry, right, as that metal, as opposed to, tungsten or whatever, the idea of precious metals is that they are indeed physical. You take physical delivery, you hold them in your hand, you put them in your safe, you bury them in your backyard, whatever you're going to do with them, but you don't hold a receipt of potential delivery someday, which in the case of paper, it's just a promissory note. And as you just stated, many of these promissory notes built on 100-to-1 leveraging, similar to the derivatives market, are empty promises with absolutely nothing to back it up, very similar to the way our fiat currency system is designed. The way I'm hearing it.
Yes, it's it's a world of derivatives where we don't even know what is the derivative of what anymore. And if you don't take delivery, you don't really own it. And we saw that many times with Cordine and with other examples around the world. With Apple Cypress, there's many examples, present and past. As a matter of fact, after the big correction in April, that was whole papers. I worked in the physical market, and it wasn't the phone ringing off the hook with people selling and getting rid of their physical position for gold and silver. The contrary, the month of April, I personally wrote trades for 3 times the amount of January, February, or March, and May. Basically, people were buying at those discounted prices. Most dealers ran out of metals. Most mints ran out of metals. The U.S. Mint, the Royal Canadian Mint, the Perth Mint, they stopped the sales, then they resumed it. There was delays. The premium was skyrocketing, because you see the detachment was in place between the physical and the paper. And the physical was saying, I don't care if you say the price is $21, you have to pay still $5 or $6 for an American Eagle if you want one. And so due to the supply and the inventory, the dealers were forced to rise the price of pretty much everything in the inventory for gold and silver, and demand was still super high, and right now it's just starting to normalize, and we see premiums go down again to more normal range. But as I said, this is all a paper charade where one day they will not be able to do it anymore. There's going to be a short squeeze, and probably what they're doing is they're exiting the short positions, covering the short position at a lower price, and they're jumping into the long positions. And when they decided that it's time to stop, they're going to open the cage, and the bird is going to fly, and gold and silver are going to go to their real price, a real value.
And who knows what that's going to be? I've had plenty of discussions where, silver is considerably undervalued strictly by way of the GSR ratio, which historically has been, 1 to 115 or 1 to 116, which which would place it up into the $100 range, instead of where it is now, hovering just below 22.
Yeah, sure. I mean, silver is it's basically necessary for everything we use right now. As the best electrical conductor, is the best thermal conductor, is the most reflective metal, has antibacterial properties. Let alone the monetary history of the metal for over 5,000 years. These are the metals.
Used in photography, for film.
Everything, and still is still considered an industrial metal, and that's why silver was going down with some economic data that will show a slowdown in China or other emerging economies. But once the monetary function of gold and silver will be rediscovered, you will see, for example, silver detached completely from other base metal like copper, which is already happening in a way. And at that point, you will see silver revert to its monetary function and value, and that 16 to 1, probably even less. The assumption was that there is 16 times more silver than gold on the crust of the planet, but there is really 9 times more silver than gold. Plus the gold that is ever been mined is basically all there, where silver is all being destroyed. So silver, I think, is the most undervalued of the metals right now. That's why I'm so bullish on silver. And gold, as I said, is the thermometer of the economy. Gold should be already at $3,000 if you consider that for every $1 trillion of the money, currency supply, gold should actually increase $1,000. And it's just because right now all the inflation has been exported to China and it's been capped in paper assets and the bonds market and other financial instruments. And it's only because of that the velocity of money has been so slow, and we haven't been really facing the inflation that we will face eventually when this is going to come to an end.
Yeah, and I think you said a key word there, and that's will. It's not if, it's when. And there's in my opinion, with this Greece and Spain business, we're looking at a domino effect, and once that domino gets flicked, it starts a chain reaction that you really just can't reverse because of the way that the banking system, the central banks, are also interdependent. That it's just a matter of time before we have Greece in our backyard, and we are facing currency devaluation and austerity in the face, just as they are in Greece. And I don't think it's going to be pretty when that happens. I'm not really looking forward to it.
Sure, you might wake up on Monday morning and the dollar is going to be devalued at 30%. Or you can see the bonds market starting to collapse and the 10 years bonds being over 3%. Or it might be, the bonds market in Japan, or to be the Eurozone. That's what I call the game changer. There's got to be one of these first piece of the domino falling down for real. We thought Cyprus could be one, or Greece. Somehow they kept things artificially, alive, just like Bernanke keeping the economy alive with the oxygen cord of printing billion a month of zero interest that is given to the banks so that they can go on Wall Street and prop the market, and so that people can see that the Dow is all-time high and the retirement is fine and the S&P is at all-time high, so everything is fine. We have a house recovery that is only because we have over 3 million homes and a shot of inventory that are not even in the market yet, because if they would be on the market, they will hurt the books of the banks. And we have unemployment that should be really at about 16% to 18%, and it's only a 7.5 because the market participation.
Well, it's also in how it's being reported. I mean, basically, what I heard you say earlier is that, as long as they're allowed to lie on television, which is pretty much all that is done on television is lies, they can keep this public perception alive with their lies. It's when they're no longer allowed to lie and they have to start telling the actual truth, well, then that's when things are going to change. Because I agree with you. I don't think that the real unemployment statistics are as friendly as they're sounding. In Greece, they're certainly not. And I can look around and I see the lines for unemployment, and I see people going to job fairs, and I look around and I know it's got to be worse than what they're saying. And I'm in an urban paradise here. San Francisco, this is a financial capital of the world over here. There's some seriously rich people here. There's also some seriously poor people as well. And there's really the in-between. It's the gap is widening. And there's there's fewer people in the middle. You got your people making a ton of dough, and you got your people standing in the bread lines. Hey, since I got you with me here, I wondered if you could, if you were aware of this, and if so, did you have an opinion on it? Did you have any comment on this latest piece of news? We're talking about game changers. Well, they're doing shakeups on Capitol Hill, and we have Tim Geithner. He's gone. Now we got Jack Lew. But this newest revelation that this is coming from the Huffington Post, that the Commodity Futures Trading Commission chief post is just been handed over to this woman, former Senate staffer, Amanda Renteria, a Harvard grad, former Senate aide with absolutely no experience. Have you heard of this? Do you know anything about it?
Personally, I am in the middle of a moving with my family, so I've been so busy and following basically the markets and other stuff that I missed out on. I am not surprised at all because, we live in a world where there's a bunch of, politicians that are just ugly actors in fancy suits, and we have, bureaucrats and academics, and this is just another example of it. And nothing good can come out of this, really.
No, I agree entirely. And if you don't mind, I'll just read a little bit of her bio here. It says, she is the daughter of Mexican immigrant workers. She studied at Harvard Business School and spent most of her career in public service. However, after graduating, she worked briefly at Goldman Sachs in their wealth management unit. She has significantly less experience at Goldman than the agency's current chief, Gary Gensler, who worked at the investment bank between 1979 and 1996. In fact, according to the report, Renteria has little experience in financial regulations, and she only played a small part in helping to write the Dodd-Frank Act, the landmark financial regulation reform law that was approved after the crisis. It seems a bit nepotistic there. I'm not surprised either.
It's a small club, as the White Shoe Boys and the Goldman Sachs people. I'm Italian, and I was not surprised that Mario Monti is the next Goldman Sachs official, and it was not elected and became the prime minister of my country, where nobody really knew about him and wasn't even elected. So these people have the audacity to bend every rule, every law, and basically make the law and stuff, and decide for us what is right and what is wrong. And most of the time, this is not good for us.
Here, and certainly, if you heard anything about what I was talking about in the first hour, this is one of the foremost issues on the table for discussion right now, is rogue government making up their own rules as they go along, and completely disregarding anything written with regard to the Constitution or any law which strictly prohibits such action. You mentioned now that things are settling down, premiums are getting down to nominal levels. Now, I know that you deal in high volume, and probably what you consider nominal is something I could never get next to, because I'm on a retail level. I'm lucky to buy, one Eagle if I can. But right here, my local shop, my dealer, he's got Canadian maples for spot plus premium of $55, and that's if I buy one or two, and I suppose that's okay, right?
You're talking about gold, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fair. I would say that, at the wholesale level, those coins really sell for about $30 or $35 over spot. But there's really not that much margin for your coin dealer, because he probably doesn't buy more than 5 or 10 at the time either, and really only makes $20 or $30 per coin. So if you consider that is not of so much of a premium, and if you buy only one coin, you're gonna have to pay shipping, I think is a fair deal.
Okay, well that's good to know. I've basically focused most of my efforts into pre-65 American coinage. And we'll talk a bit more. Please stay on the line with us, Manny. Thank you so much for calling, folks. We're talking to my friend who's a precious metals trader. You're listening to The Story Behind the Story. Stay tuned, and after these messages, we'll be back for our fourth and final segment for today. Don't go away.
This program for an urgent announcement. The power's gone and the lights are out. We now have an emergency situation. Time to light your emergency candles. Don't have any? Then it's time to order your supply of emergency grab-and-go candles from LisaKCandles.com. The emergency candles outperform even the most extreme conditions. They are soot and toxin-free and have a natural extended shelf life. The time is now, so don't delay. Have emergency candles from Lisa K Candles ready when you need them, so you remain in the light and out of the dark. Go to LisaKCandles.com. That's Lisa, the letter K, Candles.com. Or call 731-441-3293. That's 731-441-3293. We now return you to your regular scheduled program already in progress.
Prisoner, rise and answer my question. Oh, crap.
Yeah, it's a little dark in here, ain't it, Clink? Now that you've busted the light?
Where are you?
Rang funny.
Now, where have you hidden the wax figurine of the Kaiser?
I've got no bloody idea what you did with your Vax figurine, and I don't care.
You are the prisoner.
That's right, and as such, I expect some answers out of you. Now, where did you put my stash of freeze-dried food?
We, ate it.
You ate it?
It was quite good.
I'm sure it was. I'll have you know that was freeze-dried food from the freeze-dry guy. That food rehydrates faster, stores longer, is nutritionally superior to, and tastes better than any other long-term storage food available. Now, let me out of here.
If you could get us some more, perhaps we could negotiate.
Yeah, perhaps I'll just confiscate your keys, Klaus, and let myself out the front door.
But wait.
I'm busy. Get your own supply of delicious long-term storable food by dialing 866-404-3663 or visit freezedryguy.com.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
I believe it is clear our federal government is overgrown and overweight. Indeed, it is time our government should go on a diet.
There's millions of people in this country that I don't think that really grasp what really could happen.
The New Deal and the Fair Deal were bold measures for their generation. But now this is a new generation. And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There wouldn't be any doubt. The rules of the game are changing.
You're listening to the Micro Effect Radio Network, the gem of the mountains. Learn more about the Micro Effect at themicroeffect.com.
The era of big government is over.
And we're back, everybody, for the fourth and final segment from today's The Story Behind the Story. I am your Tuesday, Wednesday host, Alex Studer, and with me today for this second hour is my friend Manny, who is a precious metals trader, and he has shared some wonderful insights into the world of precious metals. And we're going to continue that chat, but just briefly I wanted to mention, folks, I forgot to kind of get this in there in the beginning of the show. Again, so much to talk about today, but I am the author of a little blog called labvirus.com, and I'm also a rock musician, and I'm working on a record, trying to get it out. You can listen to that record by going to labvirus.com and hitting the button that says Alex's Music. There's also a button there that says Get Jurisdictionary, and I strongly recommend anyone interested in becoming a pro se or pro per litigant, get up in there and hit that button that says Get Jurisdictionary over at my blog, labvirus.com. Follow the link and get yourself that course and get up to speed. Learn about how to arm yourself and walk your own cases through and win in superior court. And then, of course, if you want to go to the master degree level, following that path of inquiry, definitely go over to 1215.org and start learning about common law. And speaking of that, there's a possibility we may be visited before the end of this segment by our good friend Chumba, who may have an update to share with us. He's been undergoing some legal battles, as it were, but very unique situations going on in his world pertaining to the field of common law, as he's been employing some new and, well, not new, but shall we say unconventional and not well known, but very legal procedural tactics as he moves forward. So, Manny, are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, Manny, you shared with us at the beginning of the last segment that you have a blog that you created. What can you share with the listening audience, please, as to how they can find that blog and get up to speed on your perspective as you continue to write articles?
Yes, the blog is a new concept, is if you will, a perspective from the underground world of the precious metal dealers for physical metals. And it's called Silver Veritas. Veritas means truth in Latin, and it's basically a project that started a few weeks ago and still under construction.
Oh, so it's very new.
Yeah, it's very new.
Okay,
very new.
So just for those who didn't hear that as clearly, it's called Silver Veritas, Veritas. I think is it a WordPress blog or is it a blogspot?
Sure.
It's WordPress.
It's a WordPress blog, yes.
Okay.
And where there's updates on physical prices and also short commentary on the market for gold and silver, very little technical analysis, and a manipulated market is almost useless. And there's a suggestion on products and updates and prices, some investing ideas, and some of them actually are recently coming to fruition. You can find inside about nickel, for example.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. You made a recent post, and you and I have discussed this, and I've had talks with other people. In fact, Chumba, too, has been big on this, which I didn't know for a long time. So please, share with us this issue about why should people be so interested in plain old nickels right now?
And I'm not talking about wartime nickels that are 35% silver.
We're talking about current issue.
Yeah. They're made of 75% copper and 25% zinc, and they've been made with the same composition for quite some time, many, many years. Till recently, Dean Geithner, before resigning office, decided to pass a piece of legislation that would actually allow the government to change the composition of coinage, especially directed for pennies and nickels that are, basically about double the face value in base metal. And so basically with this, they will change, just like they did with the pennies after 1981, that are now 97.5% zinc, and they used to be 95% copper. And if you see on, for example, coinflation.com, you will see that the same penny pre-1981 is worth double what the most recent pennies are.
Right.
So nickel is not any different. So nickels are going to be basically the same. They're going to change composition. Most likely they're going to be in zinc. And we think that they might be worth 2, 3, 4 times the face value in the future, especially if hyperinflation becomes an economic reality. Because people will always decide to have $100 in nickels versus $100 in wallpapers.
Now, this is very, very interesting. And folks, I don't know if you got all that, but basically what we're hearing from our friend here is that unbeknownst to pretty much the rest of the world is coming forth a change in how they're going to be minting the nickel coin. And what we saw is in the year 1981, something changed with how they make pennies. And up until then, they'd been 95% copper. Well, they changed it down to like 2.5%, with the rest being zinc, which is a basically worthless metal. But that got the cost of making pennies down below their actual value in physical metal, because now if you look exactly at the coinflation or coinflation.com website, you can see that a penny is now worth, just in its weight, a pre-1981 penny in its pure weight of copper is worth twice its face value, and that's just today. So with nickels being 75% copper, they're going to do the same thing to nickels. There's a story that you posted. It's a very interesting one, and apparently I'm hearing this is pretty much a true story of a guy who's a 60-some-odd-year-old, millionaire who, as a hedge move, as an investment move, dropped $48,000 into buying bricks and bricks of nickels, and he's literally stacking them up in his vault, like a bricklayer would be building a wall.
Yes, I was actually the guy who helped him, and it was fun, and we get into the conversation. He's a big real estate investor and also precious metal investor, and he just had a friend in the bank that helped him change basically $40,000 cash for $40,000 in nickels. And there were close to 1 million pieces, 800,000 nickels, something to that extent. And every brick weighs about 21, 22 pounds. And we were stacking, and it was explained to me something that I already knew because I was already collecting nickels, but not with that, determination. When he said to me, you got nothing to lose, basically. There's no downside because $100 in nickels are always going to be worth $100. You can go to the bank and get your paper money back if you wish. But his guess is that those $100 in nickels are going to be worth $300 or $400 or $500 one day. And I think that is a good idea to have also some savings in nickels instead of just having, cash in the bank.
And that's to say, in addition to also, anything you may have stashed up in other precious metals. I mean, this is a good way to complement what you've already got going. If you're already building a little pile of silver and you've got some gold eagles stashed aside, this is another way to hedge yourself into this this precious metal field in a very unheard of way. I'll tell you. Well, as soon as I found this story out, sure, okay, I'll take a gamble. It's not a gamble. You can't lose, right? They're always going to be worth $100 at the very least. So I grabbed a couple $100. I went out to the bank, and they looked at me like I was from another planet, asking for a couple bricks of nickels. But they didn't have a problem. They gave them to me. But it raised some conversation like, what do you know? What's up with nickels?
Well, the same person, the same investor was telling me that basically he thinks that by August or September they will not be circulating anymore, and that by the end of the year they will change the composition officially, and so they're going to be basically just like the pre-1981 panic. And that is one, way to basically, if you will, invest, and you have no taxes, no fees, nothing to declare, and you could just gain something out of it. You can't lose. I believe that silver at this level can still, for example, go down a little bit more, briefly maybe to the $20 or $19 level. That was a huge resistance for quite some time back a few years ago, and it's going to be a very, very strong support now. So if it does, if silver really goes under $20, will be for a very period of time, maybe also a few days. I think the $20 support is going to hold, and I think this is a good time to accumulate gold and silver if you're in for the long run. I like the idea of buying some 90% if you can get good deals on 90%. Silver, dimes and quarters, because, in the eventuality of a turmoil in the economy, hyperinflation, disruption, and the community, and basically the entire environment here in the United States, you will be glad to have some 90% that you can exchange and use for everyday life necessities.
Yeah, and just from a poor person's point of view, it's the most accessible way, besides just buying bricks of nickels. But if you're really interested in anything, getting into silver, folks, this the pre-65 coinage angle is really the best way to go, because take it from me, I'm not the richest guy in the world. I'm lucky to have a couple $100 extra bucks at all, and at any time in my life. So, like the, I don't always have money, but when I do, I like to buy precious metals. Stay thirsty, my friends. So I buy from my local coin dealer, pre-65 silver coinage. There's either dimes or quarters. But you pay your sales tax. But if you had to buy, out of state and get it shipped, it turns out, it's about the same. So, I'm not paying a premium. I'm paying sales tax, but I'm getting it right at spot. And I can walk in there with $10, buy 3 dimes or whatever it costs, and I can also bring in a wad of hundreds and get myself a nice fat sack of pre-65 90% quarters. But you can't lose. Again, these are ways that you can preserve your wealth in times of uncertainty, such as we've discussed, and all indicators, in my view, point to rough times ahead with regard to currency devaluation and physical versus paper, as we talked about in the first segment. Do you have anything more to say about that, Manny?
Well, you mentioned also taxes. So, by buying pre-1965 U.S. coinage, at the moment you sell, there's really no taxes. Same for silver eagles. Versus, for example, if you buy 999 rounds, you will pay the taxes. But if you buy silver eagles, 90%, you will not pay taxes. And same for gold eagles. This is all another argument about what could be the bars. For example, every individual that is not a corporation that sell over 1,000 ounces in bars require the buyer, in this case a wholesaler or a coin dealer, to file with the IRS. But if you sell 1,000 ounces or more in rounds, you're not required to do so. And so, it's also important to choose the product in the eventuality you will want to liquidate your position. As far as gold, Gold Eagles is the product that basically retained the most premium. You pay also higher premium, but it also retained the most premium the moment you sell. As far as gold, I like the $5 and the $10 commemorative coins because it's the most inexpensive way, premium-wise, to own U.S. gold. Basically, you can get them for probably melt plus $20 or so, maybe a little more on retail. And they're backed by, the U.S. government. They're really nice coin that you can find in both BU and proof.
And what is the weight of those denominations, the 5 and the 10s?
Yeah, they're just a touch below a quarter ounce for the $5 and just about 0.48 and change, just below half ounce for the $10 commemorative coin. Those are very, very beautiful coins to own as well. And also, I know that Philharmonics and Krugerrand, they do not require to file any, they don't leave any paper trail behind. Versus, for example, the maples, if you sell over 25 ounces of gold maple, you will be required to file with the IRS to perform the buyer, in this case, the dealer will file with the IRS. So there's also this different way to invest and to be a little bit under the radar if you want, and at the same time get the physical delivery of the product that you want.
Okay. Well, Manny, thanks so much for calling in. We have Chumba on the line, and he's hopefully gonna pop in and give us, in the last 10 minutes that we have on the air, a little update. Do you want to hang out with us and hear what's going on?
Yeah, keep the Spaniard on the line.
All right. Well, he's Italian. He's not a Spaniard, but
he sounds Spaniard to me, man.
And French. That's
So
right.
there you go. There you go. How you doing, man?
Oh, good. It's just a love fest here today on the radio. It's great to have you back, Chumba. I've been having a great time the past hour talking precious metals with Manny here. This is the first time we've ever spoken, and it's just a great thing. Thank you both so much for calling in. Chumba, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I was just saying, I wish I could have been listening in. Unfortunately, I've been running like crazy all day, but I just wanted to give a quick update as far as explaining what's going on in my case, because it's kind of interesting what's happening. And I don't know exactly what it means yet, but this is just to refresh everybody. I've got a foreclosure issue, and right now I'm out of my house. The bank has successfully stolen my house with the assistance of the local county court and the sheriff. And so I've filed a lawsuit against the bank and their attorneys and the court and the judges that have been hearing my cases, because they are trying to avoid the jurisdictional challenge that I put before the court. I have a jurisdictional challenge based on several points. One of them being a claim to the land through the original land patent. Another being the fraud perpetrated on the court by the bank by not actually ever appearing in court and not bringing in a verified complaint to the court. The complaint was complete hearsay, and so I'm arguing that the court never had subject matter jurisdiction because there was never a proper complaint brought before the court. So every time I brought this challenge to the court, when I first brought it, I brought it as a counterclaim in what's called unlawful detainer, which is what the bank uses to boot you out of the house after they foreclosed on you. They revert to the landlord-tenant laws in California, which is how they do it in most states. And so I challenged the jurisdiction using what's called a counterclaim in a court of record, just so I'm employing common law. And instead of addressing the jurisdictional challenge, which the court is required to do, they ignored it completely and said, well, you cannot counterclaim in unlawful detainer. That's just not allowed in this venue, which is complete BS, because anytime you challenge the court's jurisdiction, they must prove jurisdiction on the record, and it's long settled case law. This is just basic jurisprudence. There's nothing here that I'm arguing that's fanciful or exotic or anything.
Right.
It's just jurisprudence.
You basically just got a judge saying, I will not allow the law in my courtroom.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so what I did then is I just brought a completely new lawsuit against all the parties involved, including the attorneys and the judges, because they're skirting, the attorneys are violating their oaths of office and skirting their duty. Attorneys are officers of the court, and they're public officials, just like a judge and just like a DA and any other public officer. So they also have a duty to serve the public, and they're not serving me. They have a fiduciary and a trustee duty to me as a member of the public trust. So they're skirting that responsibility and violating their oath, which they do take. They do take an oath to the Constitution, although it's a diluted one. But at any rate, and then the judges are doing the same. They're completely denying my rights, and they're failing to carry out their proper role as public servants. So I sued them in their individual capacity, because since they're not doing their public duty, it's in their individual capacity is where they're liable. And so what happened then? I got notice from the court last week that a judge had recused herself from my case, the judge that was assigned to my case. But I didn't recognize that judge's name. I thought it was another judge that had been assigned to my case, which is the first hearings are supposed to be coming up in mid-August, because all the parties, the attorneys and the bank and everybody and the judges, they demurred. And a demur is where they say, well, everything you're saying might be true, but there's no legal, you're not really suing under anything that can be sued for. It's like you go and you say, well, I don't like people who wear pink shoes. Well, that's not against the law. You can sue somebody for wearing pink shoes, but there's no law that says, that you could sue based on. At any rate, but what happened is I got this recusal order from the judge, recusing herself. I didn't recognize that judge. And so I then went online and looked up the case in the online record, and it turns out that the judge who was originally assigned to my case had recused himself the day before. And so as soon as the next judge got assigned, she recused herself. And then there was an order from the presiding judge of the county recusing all the judges on the bench in this county from the case. And then he referred it to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of California.
Wow. That's great, man. That's awesome. I really, so basically what you're doing is you're marching forward and showing that these judges are breaking the law. They're not obeying. Other judges are saying, yeah, you're right, and then they're bumping it up the ladder to more senior judges in the process.
That's basically what it seems like. Like I said, I don't know exactly what it means, but yeah, that's what it seems.
We're going to find that out. And Chumba, thank you so much. You're definitely going to keep us posted on this. We only got about 2 minutes left, so anything else you want to say, just let's we got to wrap it up here in a minute or two.
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the update. And since like I said, I'm going to be finding out what it means. I'm doing. I'm consulting with my.
And we're out of time. Chumba, thank you so much for calling. Manny, thank you so much for calling in, folks. What a great show! I hope you all caught that. By all means, get the subscription to the archives and be able to play this one back. We'll be back next week. True will be live on tomorrow. God bless everyone. Keep you all safe, and hopefully I'll be back, God willing, on Tuesday with more of my own perspective on the story behind the story. Thank you, and we'll see you then.